Hey kids, what's happening? Man, reading through some of the comments, you guys have been busy before I got here. Damn. Evening, everybody. Nice to see all the usual suspects from the Monday night crew here. I'm sure there's some stragglers that'll filter in here shortly, but Doug, Gma, Neil, Mr. John Stanley, Serenity, Rainey, I know you're lurking around there somewhere. Drew, I'll see your ass tomorrow, dude. Oh, man. I got to say, Gmod did, Doug nailed it right on the head. Gmod did do an excellent job of making Kingman sound interesting, okay? Because when we drove through there, whenever we were moving the daughter unit, from Camp Pendleton to Cherry Point, I was like, it's gone. Okay. Brown Chicken, welcome in, brother. Good to see you, my man. June, how are you? Forsaken, how are you? I would like to take a minute to point out the fact that Wawa has totally embraced the seasonal marketing trope with their festive looking coffee cups, as I sit here in a pair of shorts and flip flops in 70-degree weather. Oh, man. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to read comments and do this shit at the same time. Anyway, so hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving. I hope everybody got fat and happy. I had the fat part on lockdown before, but yeah, we had a good time. So anyway, couple things, and I didn't want to blow up the chat, on Rainey's video. The Maxima stuff that he was showing you guys, I'll tell you right now, I love that shit. It's an awesome product. Now, here is my cheap ass poor boy take on that stuff, okay? If you've got an actual K&N air filter, sounds stupid, I know, but either regular Windex straight out the bottle or Formula 409 makes an excellent cleaner for those things. Spray it on, saturate it, let it sit and soak. It'll wash out real good. The Maxima stuff, hey, they make a great product. Don't get me wrong. But, like what Rainey was saying in his video, that stuff's pretty stout. And, I like using it for certain things at the shop, but there's sometimes it kicks my ass using it just because of the fumes that it puts off. I mean, it's pretty harsh stuff. Evening, Brian. How are you doing, my man? Hope you're maintaining there at work tonight, dude. But like I was saying in the chat, if you guys buy that filter service kit that Maxima sells, number one, you ain't got to drown it in that stuff. I mean, it's damn effective. But take your filter, put it inside of a gallon Ziploc bag, and then spray it down, and then seal that sucker up. That way, you're not killing off brain cells from the fumes. But also, what you can do is after it soaks in that stuff for 5-10 minutes, something like that, put a little bit of hot water in there, and then just shake the crap out of it. That water sloshing around in there will actually agitate inside there, inside the plastic bag, and you're not just flushing all of your cleaner solvent down the drain right off the rip. Stretches it out, makes it go a little further. That, and also you ain't got to sit there and breathe the crap. Doug, I promise I won't tell her, okay? We will delete this chat when the live is done. But anyways, and like I was saying over on Rainey's video, more than once I have thought about finding a Curb Alert type of dishwasher, in one of the various back alleys or at the local Goodwill. That way I can put it out here in the shop and plumb it up to my hot water tank that I've got out here in the garage. That way I can use it as a parts washing cabinet. Because I will tell you right now, guys, whenever you're doing big stuff like, you know, transmission cases, engine crank cases, cylinder heads, like if you're, doing a head rebuild or something like that, if you can throw one of those things in a wash cabinet, man, it's a game changer because the the cleaning power of whatever soap you're using and just the heat of the water and the turbulence that's slinging around inside your average household dishwasher, it does an excellent job of knocking all the shit out of everything. That, and also as a plus, since it's a hot water cycle, whenever you pull it out of there, whatever parts you got in there, they're going to be hot. So you just blow them off. The heat dries them the rest of the way off pretty damn fast on their own. It's kind of a win-win. Yeah. Yeah, Drew, we might actually have to wear sleeves later on this week. Yep, I know exactly what you're talking about the portable ones, Doug, because that's what we had in our house in Tennessee because it wasn't set up for a dishwasher. And well, let's just say the portable factor came in handy a few times that nobody else is aware of and will not be ever. Evening, Rooster Run. Welcome in, man. I don't think we've ever had the pleasure of having you in on live with us, man. Good to see you. Thick, what's up, dude? Was negative 12 degrees today when I left for work. Brother, you can keep that because I don't want it. I really don't. Yeah. Whoa. You know, whenever we were still living in Arkansas and Oklahoma and then up in Tennessee, uh, honestly, out of the three, they all have similar weather patterns. But out of the three, I would say living in Northwest Arkansas, Eastern Oklahoma, especially when we moved to Oklahoma, that was probably the worst because whenever whenever I went back to working in the motorcycle industry after I got out of the automotive industry, I went to work at a Kawasaki Polaris shop that was 2 counties and 40 miles away from my house. And that part of Oklahoma, there's a hell of a lot of flat land and not a whole lot of trees. So whenever you get a breeze, dude, you get a breeze and that shit'll cut right through you. So 35 degrees, that feels a hell of a lot colder when there ain't nothing to slow it down than it does whenever you got a bunch of trees in the way, kind of like we did up in Tennessee. You know, near freezing or right at freezing temps was a hell of a lot colder in Oklahoma than it was in Tennessee. I'll tell you that. Keith, um, I don't know what you're talking about Florida getting down into the negatives, but if it happens, I'm going to call in to work froze. Yeah, that's the plan. Hey, Sterling, how you doing, brother? I didn't see you sneak in here, man. How's things up in Pico right now? Hey, Flash, what's happening, my man? Mr. Julian Crooks, welcome in, sir. Pete Carvo. Oh, God. They'll let anybody in here, won't they? Oh, Mr. Greg McBee, how are you this evening? Oh, so anyway, just to kind of piggyback off of some of the stuff that we were talking about in both Rainey's video and in Gma's video, I know you, words are hard, y'all. I know a lot of you guys have heard me talk about this stuff before, but the thing is, I'm a big fan of running external breathers on all of my bikes. I ever run the crankcase vent air into the intake or into the air box like on a metric bike, something like that. Because here's the thing, guys, gospel truth here. 80 to 85% of all the carbon buildup that occurs in any motor over its lifetime is directly resultant from the oil mist that is carried over into the intake and subsequently into the combustion chamber by the airflow from that crankcase vent air. I.e., if you vent your motor externally, it's going to be a hell of a lot it's going to be a whole lot happier and a whole lot healthier for a whole lot longer because you're not choking the damn thing down with a bunch of carbon buildup in the combustion chamber and especially on the backside of the intake valves. Now, where that comes into play, especially on and it's more prevalent on modern fuel injected bikes than it is carbureted bikes, but you will still see carbureted bikes suffer from this if they're bad enough off. So what happens you'll get carbon buildup on the backside of the intake valves. Now, think about this. Most fuel injected applications, just from the manufacturer, they're designed to where that fuel injector is aimed to where it fires right at the backside of the intake valve or kind of sort of towards the roof of the intake port right above the intake valve. Now, here's the problem. Fuel to burn efficiently has got to stay atomized in a very, very fine mist. Now, if it hits that big blob of carbon that's growing on the backside of the valve, it ain't gonna stay in a fine mist. It's gonna clump together and it's gonna, just pull back together into big droplets and clods. Now, eventually it's gonna make it into the combustion chamber, but it damn sure ain't gonna burn right because it's not atomized properly. And your engine performance drops off, and also that just propagates more carbon buildup because of the inefficiency of that fuel not being able to be burned 100%. Yes, Sterling, words can be chewy, okay? Flash, I'm not sure. YouTube's been doing some weird stuff here lately, my man. I've noticed here the past couple of weeks, I've had a whole lot less recommendations for videos and stuff, to people that are channel subscribers. And, at the end of the day, everybody's going to point their finger at the algorithm because, that's what it is. Basically, we have Skynet, predetermining our destiny here on uh, the digital cool kids club, if you will. Hey, Pitbull, what's up, man? Absolutely, YouTube notifications totally suck, and they're absolutely 100% undamn reliable because I've gotten notifications on videos of people that I've followed for a long time, not just in motorcycle circles, but I've gotten notifications. Hey, they have a premiere going on right now, 5, 6 hours after the premiere already wrapped up. So, yeah, YouTube, fail. Okay, one coffee down. Anyways, back to our breather problem here, okay? Doug, you are so damn close to the same wavelength that I normally do these with. Sorry, I was reading a comment there. Todd's wasted. Hey, man, I appreciate you stopping in. I appreciate the kind words, dude. I do. Hang out. Well, we do weird and wacky shit like that on the regular, okay? And I appreciate you hanging out with us, dude. But as far as Doug, as far as what you were talking about sealing the back plate and everything, dude, you're that close to perfect on that. But here's the thing. Instead of sealing the breather holes in the back plate where it comes in to the throttle body with JB Weld or something, just take like usually I use like a 632 tap and just, run it up in the hole and then put a 632 set screw pretty deep up in there. You're really not going to cut that many threads in there because that set screw is going to more or less bury itself up in there. You just need something to get it started. But what I do is I'll put one and then put another one in behind it and torque the second one against the first one. That way it locks them in place. That way I don't have to worry about one of them shaking out and getting sucked into the motor because that would be bad. Yeah, bad. Um, but as far as the rest of it goes, yeah, man, I mean, you're right on target there. Another thing to consider, um, I'm not sure why Harley has felt the need to do this, but whenever you have the chance and you pull the breather bolts out of your heads, look at the hole diameter that's in that breather bolt. They're a hell of a lot smaller than they used to be. Here's the thing. If it can breathe more, if it can breathe easier, if you've got less restriction there, you're going to have less oil mist carryover in that breather air because it's going to be moving slower under less pressure. So it gives the oil mist more of a chance to get stripped out of the airflow by the little foamy sponges or the little Sky Sprite sponges, whatever you want to call them, that's in the breather ports on the rocker boxes. And that way you're not pushing as much carryover mist out along with the breather air. But Hey, Pete, tell Royale I said hi, man. Uh, Unfortunately, I had to put the wife into bed right before we jumped on the live here because she's got an early morning of it, gang. She's got to get up at 4:30. Yikes! And guess what? I get elected to get up with her, so that's going to be awesome. But getting back to our breather thing, if you can, enlarge the breather bolt holes. You know, not just the ones that come in from the side of the bolt. If you don't have access to a drill press with a good vise or something, pull them out, run them down to a local machine shop, have them reamed out a little bit bigger. Because if memory serves right, on the later twin cams and also all of the M8 motors that I can think of off the top of my head, that hole in the breather bolt where it comes out of the head, that hole is only, I think, 3/16 of an inch in diameter. Ain't a whole hell of a lot, especially considering, if you dial the calendar back a couple of decades on the head breather Evos, they used a half-inch thread bolt, but that thing had a 5/16 hole in the middle of it, man. I mean, it moves way more air. But the thing is, it keeps the pressures inside the motor lower. Exactly, Doug. Less chance of it clogging up as well. Algorithms. You've been sitting on that for a while, ain't you, Flash? Oh man. But seriously, if you vent your motor externally, not only is it going to live longer, it's going to be happier. You're actually going to make more power because here's the thing: you got to think of it like this: air that's hot, it's less dense. It has less oxygen in it. Well, oxygen's something that you got to have to make the boom boom happen inside of the cylinder. So it's counterproductive introducing hot, oily air into the intake when you're trying to get as much cool, dense air into the motor as possible to make power. So by venting them externally, you're taking that heated and oiled down air out of the airflow coming into the motor. So not only is it going to lower your intake air temp going into the motor, when you do that, that air is going to be more dense. It's going to have more oxygen in it. That will also let your motor run just a little bit cooler because it's not going to be as prone to pinging if you're running right on the ragged edge as far as timing advance or jetting on a carbureted bike or on any of the newer EFI bikes. I'm going to tell you all right now, okay? Anybody that has ever done any kind of performance tuning on an EFI Harley, they're going to tell you right now the biggest ripoff out there is one of the race tuners from Screaming Eagle. Because even though they are programmable, yes, you can change mapping to a certain extent, they still have to work within allowable tolerances for the EPA. And what that means is leaner than ideal fuel trims and more advanced than ideal ignition maps. And either way you go, it's going to be a motor. It's going to wind up with a motor that's kind of picky about what kind of gas you put into it. It's going to be more prone to pinging, detonating, things like that. And it's going to run hotter. Hell, it may be an old one, Flash, but I had never heard of it. I mean, hey, I've always told y'all there's two things in life I know absolutely 100% for sure. That's Jack and shit. And Jack done left town. So, hey, chalk it up to me being a noob. Doug, you nailed it right there. 100,000 mile plus on the motor. The bastard glide's living proof of that. And the thing is, I've got a bit of a confession here to make. I am woefully overdue on changing oil in that thing because y'all remember that little trip I took to North Carolina back in the summer, June, as a matter of fact. Yeah, it just dawned on me the other day that I ain't changed my oil in that bike since then, and I'm like, I don't really want to crunch the numbers on that, but let's just say that I'm badly, badly overdue, and I will shame myself in town square with a wet spaghetti noodle as my penance. Yelling eagle. Fire away, Alan. What you got, man? Throwout bearing on a 77? What's the deal, man? Well, Forsaken, we don't really have a town square per se here in the greater St. Pete area. Um, we have different, well, call them territories. Yeah. But yeah, so that's my breather rant for tonight. Okay, but yeah, like I said, that Maxima stuff that Rainey was showing you guys, excellent product. I mean, hands down, excellent product. I like a lot of Maxima stuff. I use their grease, I use their chain wax, I use their fork oil exclusively. I mean, what I don't know what in the hell kind of unicorn tears they put in their fork oil, but that stuff is the cleanest running fork oil of anything I've ever used in my life. If I've got a bike that comes into the shop that I know I've serviced the forks on before and I open them up, 9 times out of 10, that oil will be just as crystal clear as when I poured it in there. If it's gray or muddy looking, whenever I drain it out of there, I'm putting slider bushes in there because every time it gets muddy looking like that, the Teflon is just abraded away off of the lower slider bushes on the bottoms of the tubes. I mean, they're just flat ass used up. Well, I mean, Motul makes theirs red. If for all the K&N purists out there, I think the blue looks pretty good though, Rainey. Todd, I really couldn't say that the Maxima runs kind of thin on viscosity on their fork oil, but the thing is, I've used it for so long, that's kind of the standard that I go by. Now, granted, a lot of the times, whenever I'm doing forks on a bike, I don't follow book spec on them. Typically, what I will do is I defer to Racetech's recommended baseline settings because if you go on Racetech's website and you plug in year, make, and model, and you click suspension products, it'll pull up what the stock fork spring rate for that bike is if they've got it in their database, which is pretty extensive. So they're probably going to have it. But it'll pull up what the stock fork spring rate is. It'll give you a recommendation on oil viscosity and also your oil height in the leg. And then if it's a bike like, okay, say like Destiny, for example, my Turglide, they recommend 20 weight in that thing. Um, I'm probably going to stick with the 20 weight because we're doing a bit of a revalve on the fork whenever we jump into that because there's a hell of a lot of other stuff we're doing on the front end of that bike all at one time. But I'm probably going to stick with the 20 weight as they recommend. But like the oil height that they recommend, a lot of times I'll raise that by 10, 15 millimeters. If I know my customer is either an aggressive rider or, he's a healthy, well nourished boy such as myself, because that just gives you a little bit extra resistance to bottoming out whenever you get to the bottom third of the stroke in the fork. Alan, if you're blasting out the pancake bearing on your clutch throw out, then you got something going on there that's influencing that. Either you're running big, mega heavy clutch springs, or you might want to consider looking at how much oil you're running. I'm assuming this is in a 4-speed. Am I right? Because if it is, make sure your slinger is not stripped out in the middle to where the slinger is actually slinging and moving oil like it's supposed to. Because I very rarely see a problem with the smaller bearing. I mean, I'm on board with you as far as converting over to the earlier style bearing. I think it just gives you a lot more, cushion room there. But I've not seen a problem with the small bearing pancaking unless there was something else pretty significantly wrong, like mega heavy clutch springs or too much preload on the push rod whenever you're setting up your clutch adjustment. You know, Either that or if the center of the little slinger, the little sheet metal slinger, if it's tore out to where it's freewheeling on the push rod there, that's about the only time I see a problem with that thing, man. Doug, I'd agree with you. I think throwout bearings preloaded a little bit too much. Uh, Alan, just for giggles and ha-has, whenever you are setting your clutch up, are you disconnecting the clutch cable from the clutch arm? That way, you can feel for when the bearings actually bottomed out. Flash, I agree with you. A long time ago, I used PJ, and because that's what they stocked at the shop, and that's what was normal. Honestly, the biggest reason I got away from the PJ1 stuff, it really didn't have anything to do with seal compatibility or anything. Man, that stuff was a dark green and it just looked used up and half broke down when you poured it out of the bottle. And it doesn't age very well. But one thing I did notice about it that really significant, if you take say you take a McDonald's straw and you take a cup of PJ1 fork oil and you do the same thing with a cup of Maxima fork oil, it's the same way. Blow some bubbles in there, the bubbles dissipate and disperse out of the Maxima fork oil about 10 times as fast as it does the PJ1. They've got something in there that is one hell of an anti foaming agent. I mean, that and how clean it runs, that's what sold me on it. Hey, Cheeseburger, what's up, dude? Long time no see, my man. Okay, Alan, if you're just kind of wiggling it and tightening it until it feels good, try this, okay? Run your adjuster screw on the clutch pressure plate in and feel for when it's bottoming out, getting tight. Now, keep in mind, you got to back your clutch cable completely off before you do this. Preferably unhook it from the arm, okay? But run your adjuster screw in all the way and feel for it, and you'll feel for whenever it's bottoming out and it's actually taking up all the slack. Now, if you're using like a regular four speed, uh, either a 3 or a 5 stud clutch head in a 4 speed, I know what the book says, but back that thing off 3/4 of a turn and then lock it down because you're giving it a little bit of additional little bit of additional free play to where everything's got room to move and you got room for oil to flow. And then you set your clutch cable, your clutch lever slack off of your cable adjuster. Cheeseburger, I've used ATF fork oil before too, and fork oil and ATF actually has a pretty heavy duty detergent and additive package in there, and it's real slick. Uh, Brian, um, tell you what, dude, I will shoot you some links over on Patreon and get you that what you need. You say you're looking for like a whole ass exhaust for this thing too? Because if you are, let me know if it's a CB750C or if it's a Super Sport. Okay. Oh, Todd, you're in Pendleton area now? Yeah, dude. Whenever I went out there to visit my kid and I hopped off the plane, I looked around, I was like, shit, everything's brown. Everything's dead. Hell, this looks like Eastern Oklahoma. Yeah, Alan, you gotta here's the thing that the adjustment on your pressure plate, when you run that in and you feel it touching, making contact, whenever you feel it getting to your zero lash point, you got to back that thing off a little bit, a half to 3/4 of a turn. Everything's got to be able to move and everything's got to be able to float because you got to have room for oil to get in there and do its job, man. Matter's rainy. I know how it is, man. I'm gonna be up before the dawn myself, getting her off to work, man. So I feel your pain. Hey, cheeseburger, I know what you're sending me. Now, wrap those things up really good in like a sacrificial bath towel or something, and then tape said towel around them, and then pad the crap out of the rest of the box, and then tape the box up like you're anticipating them dropping it on the surface of Mars, okay? Because if there's any way something heavy can move around inside that box, that's what busts the box open, and that's how your shit gets tore up because UPS don't care, man. Hey, no problem, Alan. That's what we're here for, man. I mean, that's the whole thing. That's why we started the Discord. Hell, that's why I started doing all this stuff. I mean, it can't stop here with me, and I don't know everything. I'll never preach to know everything because I'll tell you right now, I don't. But if what I do know can help somebody out and save them a little time or a little money, that's why we're here, man. That's why we started building the brain trust over on Discord. Uh well, sticky neutral on a 4 speed, that's a whole nother critter. Now, have you and I talked about that diaphragm clutch conversion in the past that Sifton offers for those things? I can't remember if we have or we haven't. Remember the bike I asked what it was that had the air breather on the left? Uh, Ryan, you're losing me there, man. Yes, Drew, they absolutely will toss that shit. Forsaken, you are right on the money there. Um, Other parts of the temple here that do not make it to YouTube because YouTube is very displeased whenever you broach that subject. I used to sell a lot of, well, let's just say that they were damn sexy fishing sinkers. All of them were the same diameter, the same weight, you know, virtually identical. Only one problem, they didn't have a hole in them where you could tie them on a fishing line. They were horrible fishing sinkers, but they were damn good for doing other stuff with. But anyway, um, did you know that there's a weight limit on a flat rate box for the post office? I didn't until I hit it, and I had to take some weight out of a medium flat rate box one day. Apparently, you can't put more than 66 pounds in a medium flat rate, or I think it's 78 or 86, one of the two, in a large flat rate box. But I will say that you can fit 31 pounds of fishing sinkers in a small flat rate box. Hey Tara, how you doing? Zippo, what's up, man? Haven't seen you in a while, man. How you been, bro? Flash nailed it talking about the old Samsonite luggage commercials. You got that one on lock there, Bubba. Tape it up like square grouper. Well, you're not too far from the truth there. Zellock, I know, man. Whenever they told me that they had a weight limit, I was like, what? Where? What the hell happened to if it fits the box, it goes? Well, apparently that's one of those statements that follows an asterisk on like page 4 that nobody ever reads, me included. Uh, Brian, I'm going to need you to wait a minute. Are we talking about a Kawasaki Vulcan 1500 or 1600 here? Because that's the first thing that pops into my mind when you're talking about a water cooled bike with a breather on both sides. Todd's, yeah. Well, when you do the math on it, figure an average of 125 grain per sinker, and there's 7,000 grains in a pound. Well, you can back into it with math there. Alan, Neil, yep. Uh, let's see here. Exceeded the weight of cardboard. Fun little factoid here. A lot of times, if I had like a small order from a customer, if you will, or if it was like a one off, I was shipping somebody some samples of to try. Instead of putting them in small flat rate boxes, I'd put them in the little uh, bubble wrap plastic mailers, the flat rate envelopes. The thing is, if you take one and put whatever you're putting in there and then roll it up and tape it on itself to where it doesn't have room for stuff to move around, and then you put that inside of another one along with a bunch of newspaper, whatever. I mean, you can put 25 pounds in one of those damn things and they'll go anywhere and they won't pop open. You just got to make sure you use good tape on them. That's all. But oh yeah, cheeseburger, man, I forgot about the Vulcan 750. I wasn't even thinking about that, dude. And I'm glad you miss it. Me personally, I do not, because I have worked on enough of those damn things to more than last my lifetime. And also, I had one of them try to kill me about 3 years ago. So, it's a wee bit of a personal matter for me as well. Yeah. Well, I miss having to do or I don't miss having to do cam chains on those things because the earlier ones, like the earliest 750s, and then when they first come out, they were actually a 700. And man, those were the cam chain rattling this damn thing that Kawasaki ever put out on the market for about 10 years there. But anyway, so back to our Maxima stuff that we were talking about. I meant to get back to this before Rainy had to split, but y'all know me, squirrel. So their air filter oil, the blue stuff, it's called Fab One, and I don't know why they named it that, but it is fabulous. No, it wasn't you, man. It's me, dude. I mean, yeah. I mean, dude, right now, let me show you these and this. It's a magical combination. Now, the thing is, this stuff right here, it is one molecule away from being the same as the plastic bag that it comes in when you purchase it at Walmart. But it's so good on those Doritos. But like I was saying, on the Fab One stuff, either if you're using this stuff, I'm going to tell you guys right now, either put it inside of an old Walmart sack before you go to spraying that filter oil on there, or have some gloves on like what Rainey was doing. Because if you don't and you get that stuff on your hands, you will feel like you did something very inappropriate and unnatural with a large quadruped farm animal or forest creature, like along the lines of a moose or something like that. I mean, it just it sticks to every damn thing. Oh shit. Tractor suitcase. What are you talking weight plates for the front of a tractor, Flash? Because if you are, and if they're lead and not steel, I would really like to find some of those things for reasons. But I've got a I got a feller that I buy lead from every now and then whenever I'm running short of a specific alloy, or stuff that's got a real high antimony content to it. That way I can harden up my alloys. And usually whenever Roger sends me a box of stuff, uh, there's about 4 layers of tape on the damn thing, but it gets here in one piece. It just sucks picking up off the porch, and I'm pretty sure that my postman hates me for it. Todd, I would be I would be a little well, let me back up here. Depending on what kind of a motor you're putting on, I either would be very hesitant to use copper spray on a head gasket, or I would have no problem using copper spray. It all depends on what you're working with. Like say old Harley Iron Head Sportster, where you got a copper shim head gasket, you got iron cylinders and heads. Yeah, take a torch and nail your head gaskets, put some spray on there, bolt that shit up. Um, if it's on like a newer like say a newer metric motorcycle, just to give you an example, when we were still building micro sprint motors when I was working at the shop up in Tennessee. I would order the head gaskets from Cometic that they made that were a 2-layer head gasket, and they mic'd out at 18 thousandths of an inch thick, if I recall. And there ain't no way I'd use spray on those things because they need every bit of surface contact they can get to seal. And when everything's right, they seal, and they seal damn well. But you've got to have the right surface finish on everything too. Tara, you growl away, girl, because you have had a hell of a week from the sound of it, okay? You ain't gonna find no, you ain't gonna find no from me on that at all. And Zellock, I'm sorry, brother. Comments are rolling kind of quick here. Now, what was I guess I did miss your comment earlier about top speed on your or highway speed on your Zuki. Hit me up with that again, man, because I didn't catch it. Cheeseburger, nowadays, yeah, most modern wheel weights are made out of either zinc or iron, one of the two. But heavy commercial truck stuff, they still use lead and lead alloy. Certain manufacturers of adhesive wheel weights still use lead alloy, but there's enough of that stuff out there, man, that I'm not going to be hurting for material for a long time. And as far as you're talking about that Indian head gasket sealer with the little bottle in the brush, that stuff's nasty. That's like the methylate of the motorcycle world, okay? Ugh. I will say this though, if I've ever got to rewind a stator, that's what I use for sealing up the windings on a stator because it's so damn sticky it sticks to any damn thing. Oh, how do you help counter the wind? Well, Zellock, here's the thing. It this comes down to, basic physics here. You're on a relatively light motorcycle and you're going a given speed. Now, in proportion to that, if you're riding perpendicular to the direction of airflow, if you've got a 20, 25, 30 mile an hour crosswind coming at you, it's going to move a lighter bike around on the road easier and more aggressively than it will if you've got a heavier motorcycle because there's less mass to move there. And if you got to lean into it a little bit to counteract it, hey man, you got to do what you got to do. There's been times before where we've been riding in a group going down the road, and you'll sit there and you'll get looking, and you'll see guys going down the road in a straight line, leaned over like that, and it's like, damn, I guess it's breezy. But it's one of those things you just, after a while of doing it, you just do it. Oh man. Well, don't scream in your helmet too much there, Bubba. I mean, this is one of those things, it comes with the territory. So you will adapt, you will overcome. Oh God, beet juice and ag tires. Man, I had exactly one incident with that stuff one time, and I swore up and down I'd never do another one again. Because they're in Arkansas. Whenever I first started working for Napa, the the Napa that I worked at, we were the country Napa. Let's put it that way. And we'd always have people bringing farm and implement tires up to us because Perrin Tractor, that was right across the road from us, they were way the hell higher than what we were, and we'd have these guys bring these things in that were water filled or whatever, and somebody had. I'm assuming it was beet juice because it was about the right color, but man, we popped that damn thing off the rim to change the tire out, and oh my god, it stunk. Oh, son, it stunk. Yeah, yeah, we had some big ones there, cheese. I mean, we had a tire machine too, but every now and then, you had to break out the sledgehammer and do them old school. Good night, Mr. Stanley. Sweet dreams, brother. I appreciate you coming around to say hey to us, man. Yeah, dude, fix a flat's nasty, all on its own. As a matter of fact, we got a tire in, probably about 3 weeks ago. You know the big quart bottles of the green tire slime? This was on the back of a Road King. And I swear this guy put two of those damn quart bottles of green slime in that thing because it was everywhere. And we knew there was slime in there because when we pulled the valve core out of the wheel, we could see the shit coming out of it. I mean, hell, we could see it leaking out of the hole in the tire. But just from the tire machine breaking the bead on that damn tire without it having any air pressure in it, it shot a big ass stripe up the wall in the back of the shop. I mean, yeah, it was rough. Ah, geez, don't worry about the beads whenever you go to change the tire out, man. Just take an air blower and they'll go away real fast. No. For the last time, no. Balance beads do not work on a motorcycle. Technically, they can work. Real world, they don't work because you got to think of the dynamic. These balance beads were designed for heavy haul over the road truck tires. You got a lot more mass, and plus, basically, that tire is square for all practical purposes on the inside and how it behaves on the road. And a motorcycle tire has a totally different dynamic going on inside of there. It accelerates a lot faster, it stops a lot faster. Plus, also, motorcycles do this funny thing. They lean in corners. So yeah, beads are a no-no for me, guys. Flash, you ain't kidding, they're heavy when they're liquid filled. God. Yeah, like I was saying, the balance beads were originally designed for heavy haul over the road truck tires. And that's everybody, some wingnut back in the 70s saw that in a shop and they thought, hmm, let's try it in Papa's car. Well, it worked in Papa's car, but then again, you're still talking a similar dynamic. Um, think of it like this: try try the whole thing of balancing a motorcycle tire using nothing but a 3 ounce wheel weight. See how far that gets you. Yeah, Pete. Some people bought into that stuff and they towed the line with it, man. And for a lot of people it worked really well, but they don't look at the downside of it. And I don't know if everybody saw it. I put a picture up on Patreon, a week or so ago, something like that. We had a gold wing that was in. We were putting a rear tire on, and he had beads in there. They had deteriorated literally into baby powder. I mean, they had totally broken down. Well, usually, whenever we see that happen, it's because the tire's been run underinflated and the tire gets too hot. And that's when the beads start coming apart and break down like that. Now, down here, with as much humidity as we've got, if you've got somebody that stops at one of the little freebie air pumps, like at a Wawa or something like that, especially during summertime when we're in the middle of monsoon season, you can literally see the water vapor spraying out of the end of the hose because they are so bad to pull moisture out of the air and blow condensation into the tire. Now think about it. Remember when you take flour and water and you make glue when you were a kid? That's basically the same thing you're doing with those tire beads once you get any kind of moisture inside the tire. Ugh, beet juice and motorcycle tires. Oh my god. Ugh, that's a horrible thought. Yeah, well, yeah, if it's a Rokon, yeah. God, I've not powdered tubes in a long time. I mean, I'll be honest with you. What I do is I keep a spray bottle full of, you know, soapy water. It's mixed real heavy with Dawn dish soap, and I just give it a real light spritz, and I'll wipe it on there with my hand, and do it to it, man. Because for what little amount of moisture you're putting inside the tire, between the tube and the tire, after that thing gets ridden 50 to 100 miles, you're going to have enough heat build up to where it's going to evaporate out of there and it's never going to be a problem for you. Sterling, that would be funny. I would like to see some that sounds like some Mythbuster shit, putting mercury inside of a tire. Well, forsaking what they do, like it's he's talking about on tractor tires. Because like on the rear tires on the tractor, farm tractor, if you put liquid inside there, you're adding weight over the wheels. It's unsprung weight, so it helps with traction. And if you grew up like I did in the middle of the clay belt, where it's nothing but red or gray clay, um, there's this weird phenomenon. Whenever that stuff gets a little bit damp and whenever it gets stirred up just right, it is slicker than greased owl shit and it will stick to anything under the sun. I mean, you can put a blob of it in the middle of a Teflon skillet and turn it upside down and it'll stay there. Go on, Doug, educate him, learn him something. Good job on you, man. All right. One of these days we're going to have to test that theory, Bubba, but it ain't going to be me. Oh, y'all didn't think I forgot, did you? Todd, I've used silicone spray on them as well, and it's kind of funny. The good silicone that I keep in the shop, I've been using the stuff from Motorex because it's a pretty heavy silicone and it's kind of sort of thick, but it doesn't evaporate off real fast, and it stays put. Like if say you got like say you got like some rubber trim that's sticking, like the Turapack lid on Destiny was sticking real bad whenever I first got it. So I just gave it a quick spritz of it, and it ain't stuck since. But you know, the Moose brand stuff that Parts Unlimited sells, man, that stuff's awful. It's stupid light. It absorbs into rubber really, really easy. But like for what you're talking about for doing tire work, it actually works really good for that. And I keep a couple of cans of that stuff around for whenever we've got a tire that's just exceptionally tight, or like if it's a custom wheel that doesn't have a drop center in the middle of it, where you're just stretching the crap out of the tire. That's where that stuff comes in handy for us. Nighters, Tara. Be good, girl. Hope you get to feeling better. Oh, come on, kitty. You can't tell me when you was a kid you didn't sit there and bust a thermometer open, hold it, and go playing around with it in your hand. I mean, hell, I know I did. But but yeah, like I said, the Maxima stuff, good stuff. Uh, stretch that shit out though. Spray it inside of a plastic bag. Keeps the mess down. Keeps you from killing brain cells from the fumes. Plus, also put it in a Ziploc bag. Shake it around. Yeah, there's your washing machine right there. Then you can wash it out in the sink, like normal after that. Alan, you're not entirely wrong here. It's funny because I will. It never ceases to get a laugh out of me because there's certain groups on Facebook that are dedicated to our fishing sinker conversation that we were having, and I've been making my own like that for over 30 years at this point. And I made the mistake a couple of years ago of posting a picture of my setup that I use in the garage here for casting. And this one dude, I swear to God, his middle name is OSHA. He lost his mind because I didn't have a fume hood above my melting pot and I wasn't wearing a respirator and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, hey, dude, here's the thing. I get a lead test every year as part of my physical. And for the last 15 years, I've been very, very, very low on the spectrum. Now, it's common sense. Don't handle the shit with your bare hands. Don't use anything that you're going to cook food out of to melt it in. And whatever in the hell you do, don't be dumb and put it in your mouth and start chewing on it. If you can manage those three things, you're fine. Because having lead melted, you're never going to get it hot enough to aerosolize it to where you can breathe it in, because you literally have to have it at a rolling boil at that point. Yeah, all right. I know. Sorry, guys, tangent. Okay, one of these days, one of these days, we may expand the 2A section over on the Discord to where we can continue intellectual conversations like this at a little bit more detail. But but yeah. Now, I know a lot of you guys saw the pictures that I put up on Discord over on Patreon, a few days ago, showing you my screw up on the carbs on the VF 1000. Well, I kind of did a double take when I saw what it was, and then I kind of walked it back through my head, and I was like, "Hey," and it hit me. If you guys saw the pictures of the carbs over on the Patreon side, if you look at the third picture in that series, blow that sucker up, and you look real close, and I mean real close, but you'll see what the problem was. Actually, Rocket Man 48 pegged it right there. I mean, he nailed that shit. And actually, he pretty much word for word nailed the process of how it happened too. Now, any of you guys that have bought a carburetor rebuild kit, how's that stuff show up? Shows up in a little Ziploc bag. Everything's in there loose, except for maybe the float needle itself, and a couple of small pieces. So, what got my ass on this, on that Honda in particular, the float seats screw into the carb bodies. Now they have a very thin aluminum crush washer that seals that brass float seat to the aluminum carb body. So they've got to be torqued to a certain spec, to crush it and form that seal. But they've got a little nylon snap-on bug catcher, strainer, filter, whatever you want to call it, that snaps into a machine groove that's on the top of that float seat that goes up inside the threaded portion of the carb body where that float seat screws in. And I will be, hey Doug, as far as the invite goes, check your messages over on Discord, because I sent you one last night, Bubba. Actually, hang on, guys. For anybody that doesn't have the Discord invite, let me get that for y'all right now, and I'll just pin it here in the comments. How about that? Bear with me. I'm having to do some copy pasty type shit here. But anyways, as I was saying, the the problem that I was having is that that Honda, once in a blue moon, would uh, run the carbs over whenever the guy first started the thing up, and it would stop relatively quickly, but it would piddle a little bit of fuel out, and it wouldn't do it all the time. It would do it very randomly. I mean, hell, I had the thing at the shop for right at 3 months before I got it to do it to me. So what had happened, and I don't know how I missed this, but I missed it. It was on me, because the only way this thing could have got there, apparently, in one of those carb kits, there was an extra idle mixture screw O-ring. And somehow it had bounced around, jumbled around, and it got its way inside that float seat that screws into the carb body. And I missed it multiple times. Number one, I missed it whenever I unpacked the carb rebuild kit. Number two, I missed it whenever I was laying out my parts and sorting through all my stuff. Number three, I missed it whenever I put the screen on the new float seat and put it into the carb body. And 4, I missed it whenever I put the damn float needle and the float assembly in the carb and I set the fuel height or set the float heights on the carbs. So that's 4 different times where it was tucked up in the corners, if you will, just perfect enough to where, unless I was literally eyeballing it like this, I just glanced at it and I never saw it. But what was happening is that that O-ring was up in that float seat. Now, keep in mind the tip of the float needle. It's a rubber tip float needle, but it's pointy. So what was happening is most of the time, the pointy part of that float needle was going in the middle of the O-ring, and it was going in there aligned to make contact with the float seat and shut off the flow of fuel like it was supposed to. Every now and again, that O-ring would move over to the side a little bit and it wouldn't let that float needle seal all the way. Yeah. But sure as hell, that was on me. And, hey, what can I say? I'm human. I fuck up. And on that one, I fucked up in glorious fashion because I missed it at least 4 different times. But, good news. It was an easy fix. Pull it out, cuss at it, be pissed at myself for about a half hour, flick it across the shop, put the carbs back together, back on the bike, and move on. Flashy, if you go back to that picture, it's the third one down. Go back to that picture and blow it up as much as you can. And if you look, you'll see that O-ring laying just off of center in the bottom of that damn float seat. To be totally honest with you, I looked right at it the first time and I didn't spot it. And then I was like, wait, what? Because I thought it had a piece of trash in there or something. Yeah, well, yeah, I found it. And, at least it was an easy fix. But keep in mind, this is one of those bikes that kind of gets the white glove treatment, so to speak, whenever it's in the shop. The paint on this thing is not only when this guy painted this thing, when he was in the process of restoring it, not only did he order the factory correct paint, he ordered the Honda factory correct paint for this bike. And just the paint material alone, just the paint itself for the 3 different colors and then the primer coat was like $1,200 for enough to shoot the paint on this thing. Well, Alan, he's gimping around right now. I got to take him to the vet because he's got a non-cancerous tumor that's on his left rear hind quarter. We got to get him in there and get that removed because it ain't comfortable for him. It ain't really hurting him, but it don't need to be there. So here in about a week and a half, I got to check the date on it. Yeah, I got to take him into the vet where they can take care of that and get him fixed up because you know he uh, he ain't his normal retard self. Whenever he can't run himself to death chasing after an imaginary trash bag or an RC car out in the backyard. No, you ain't late, man. Whenever you get here, you're right on time. Don't worry about it. You're totally fine, dude. I mean, to be honest with you, as far as Brody goes, the the gimp leg, while concerning to us, it's not that big of a deal because honestly, it's something that the breed is kind of prone to have developed, and we've been through this before with a previous Basset that we had. But yeah, Flash, me and you both, man. But like I said, we went through this with our other Basset, and the breed is kind of prone to developing those types of tumors, but they're benign. They're not a cancerous tumor. It's just it's basically they have a overgrowth of uh, fatty tissue underneath the skin, and it just forms a pocket, and it just grows and grows and grows. Oh, thanks, Todd. Like I said, this is a pretty easy. Oh yeah, Yeah, Kitty, he's definitely gonna be in the cone. And the thing is, I can't put him in a cone because his snoot is so damn long, and the cone has to be so big because his snoot is so long. He can't walk in a cone because it digs into the ground. He can't go forward. He'll back up, but he can't go forward because the cone digs in. So what I did is I bought one of the whenever we had the boys cut. Um, we uh, we bought him one of these. It's like those neck pillows, like you see at the airport for like $40, something like that. But you blow it up; it's inflatable. But we strap that onto him, and it's big enough to where he can't get around to do anything. But it still lets him have enough mobility where he can actually walk up one stair into the back of the house and not get hung up. Oh, Alan, I hate to hear that about your wiener dog, man. We uh we had a wiener dog named Max. He was typical short hair, red, and and this is when the kids were little. They were small, but we we'd take him swimming with us during the summertime, and it was hilarious because all you would see was his snoot and two eyeballs floating above the water. He looked like a little baby alligator, but you'd see the tail just whipping the water into foam behind him whenever he was swimming. Yeah, geez, he tripped over his ears a lot when he was a pup. Hell, he was probably close to 2 years old before he quit tripping over his ears on a regular basis. Oh, Todd, it is funny, man. Whenever we get him out of surgery, I'll make sure I put you guys up some pictures and everything just to let you know how he's doing. But you'll get a laugh out of it to boot. Flash, I hate to hear that, man. Really, I do. It's funny how we get attached to critters because they become more than just a pet. They become more than just a family member. I mean, they're almost like your kids to a certain extent. I mean, you get any decent pet owner gets that level of attachment. And the thing is, it's kind of a vicious bitch because it sneaks up on you, and you don't realize just how deep you're in until something bad happens. Uh, you know, Artie, our first basset hound, unfortunately, we lost him to some of the tainted Iams dog food that had been imported from China, and I don't remember the exact details of it, but basically, uh, it put him into kidney failure. And the thing is, because of his personality, we did not catch it in time to be able to do anything for him. Because if you want to talk about the laziest dog you've ever seen in your life, that was Artie to the core from day one. And like that dog was so lazy that I would swear there was times he would be laying on his back under the ceiling fan in the kitchen or in the living room with his mouth open. That way he didn't have to put any effort into breathing. But the thing is, uh, the bad dog food had uh, caused him to go into kidney failure, and his potassium levels were crazy, crazy high. And it was a bad deal because I went to work one morning and he was laying there in his bed in the garage. This is when we were still living in Tennessee. But you know, he was laying there in his bed, and I gave him a scratch on the way out the door. And the wife unit called me, a little bit after lunchtime, and she was freaking out. And the kids were freaking out because she had gone out to the garage and found him, and he was having a seizure. He'd threw up on himself. He'd wet himself, eyes rolling back in his head and everything. He was in a full body seizure, and she got him in the house. put him in the tub with some cool water running over him because she thought that, he had heat stroke. And anyway, I told her, hey, bring him down to the vet because the vet that we used was in the same building complex that the bike shop I used to run up in Tennessee was located in. It was right around the corner. And when they got there, because she had called the vet and, they're like, yeah, bring him on in, because apparently they had seen this, in other animals. And when they got there, they immediately did his blood work and I can't remember what they gave him to get him stabilized from the seizure, but they did his blood work and his potassium levels were just so high. They told us that his kidneys were pretty much destroyed. So I I basically within the span of 5 minutes went from walking into the door of the vet's office to having to say goodbye to my best friend, And man, that was hard because we had the kids there with us. It was me, the wife unit, and I mean, I've got customers at the shop I've got to go back to, and I'll be the first one to admit I was crying like a little baby whenever I went back, and I mean, I just it's it kind of shows the level of commitment that people make and the relationships that you build with a customer because I had guys hell I had three guys in the shop and they were all with one of the 1% clubs that was up there in the northwest Tennessee area and I told them what was going on and everything and man I had so many people hugging on me. I had so many people that were sitting there crying along with me. I mean that's that's something. You wouldn't think that something like that would make a grown ass man break down and cry like a little kid, but it damn sure will. Yeah. And the funny part is, we didn't get Brody to replace Artie. We got Brody because we wanted Brody. But I see a lot of Artie in Brody, and you know, he's probably a little bit dumber. He ain't quite as lazy, but I guess the dumb balances out the lazy a little bit. So yeah, Tim, I know, and I ain't using it as an excuse, but the thing is, in my defense, I have cut down quite a bit here the past couple of years. I used to be real bad, brother, like bad, bad. But the downside of that, what most people don't tell you is, whenever you quit or you're making the attempt, that's when you start packing on the tonnage. And when you're on the backside of 40 and staring 50 in the eye, uh, you eat like two extra pieces of popcorn and your ass grows by 5 pounds. Alan, I agree with you there. And that's kind of like what I tell my mama. And, mom, if you're sitting there at the house watching this right now, you may be, you may not be, but if you are, you've heard me say this 100 times if you've heard me say it once. I'd damn sure rather spend what time that I got left enjoying what I've got left, not knowing how much I've got left, rather than waste that time fretting about how much time I may not have left. Keith, yeah. And actually, that's on my dance card here for in a couple of months because I got to call and make the dreaded appointment for the big barium milkshake and the free show peep show. So yeah, Pete, I tried that for a while, man, and it didn't work for me. Now, granted, I haven't. Zolock, that's evil. I mean, that's really fucking evil, dude. God, I'm kind of glad the old lady ain't sitting here reading this shit right now. She would definitely she would take off and run with that. What, dude? What? Great. Now I got an idiot over here. Hey, Carl, how you doing, man? Hey, Milspec, what's happening, dude? Good to see you again. Sorry, I was catching up on comments here. I, eh, Zelak, I agree with you. Okay. Now the thing is, my daughter, she picked up the vaping thing whenever she was in the Marine Corps, and she, when she was home on leave one time, she's like, "Hey, can you run me up to the vape shop?" Yeah, sure. So I run up there, drop her off. She goes in, and she's like, "Well, I got this. I'm gonna try it." And I'm like, "Okay, what the hell is it?" Because I'm thinking, like bubble gum or some shit like that. Honest to God, this kid bought this vape juice called unicorn farts. I could not make this up if I wanted to. And I will never let her live that down, ever. Yeah, Flash, I know. She's got early morning of it tomorrow, dude. So she had to go to bed, pull the plug on her early tonight. Cereal brand. Oh my God. Anyway, all right, so we think we got Alan Lawrence's clutch issues worked out. Dude, by all means, check back in with us and let us know how that turns out. Anybody else got something going on they want to pick my brain about? Come on, we'll try it. Milspec, I don't want to know how you came by this information, and you do not need to show me how, okay? My Angel's doing okay. I mean, he's back to pretty close to 100%. Every now and then, on a big heavy bike, if he's moving around, because Angel's not a big dude. I mean, he might weigh a buck and a half on a good day, but he every now and then he's like, "Ooh, hey, give me a hand here." But all in all, he's doing all good. Sure thing, Alan. And if you're talking about it puking out of the case breather, do some reading on the receipt and the check ball in your oil pump, Bubba, because that's where it stems from. Because let me guess, you got it in an FX chassis where the oil bag's right underneath the seat, don't you? Royale, she's doing good. Uh, she's still kind of gun shy, kind of nervous. She's been taking the toll roads and the back roads, here this first week just to keep her out of the thick of the interstate. But she's getting there. Proud of her because honestly, this is the first big wreck that she's ever been in, and I ain't gonna lie, it scared the shit out of both of us, her especially. But you know, I maybe it's just me, maybe it's just the motorcyclist mindset, but I mean, hell, all of us here, everybody in here, we've all ate shit at least once at one point in time or the other. Picked ourselves up, dusted ourselves off, we got back on the horse, and that's what she's having to do right now. So it's her time. Jen, I still ain't totally sold on the smart card, man. I just maybe it's the tightwad in me, but I have a very hard time seeing how they can justify what they charge for those carburetors, and you can't convince me that that thing is that much better than a properly set up and tuned, Minkuni or Kian carburetor, especially when you're talking about something that's a direct action slide car. It just, I mean, to me, it just feels like a bunch of hoopla. Pods, if you're running a pod filter on a two stroke like that, unless you do some heavy duty rejetting on the carb, yeah, you're going to get that, dude. And the thing is, I'll tell you right now, on KDX 200, it's going to be worth it to you to try to run down an air box to put back into that thing. Yeah, Flash, Sporties do it too. Actually, Gmaw's got one that's marking its territory in the same manner right now. Smart Carb is a brand. Basically, they're a bougie billet. Oh, we do this so much better as seen on TV type of carburetor that usually the KTM guys are the ones that are buying these things. But then again, KTM guys always seem like they got disposable cash to throw at Farkles and E-Dunks and stuff like that. So yeah, see that's the thing, June. The you're what they're talking about is more or less the same basic premise as the electron carburetors, where they have just a metering needle and that's it. And that's all well and good. But that uh, it's hard to describe. I'm trying to get my brain to kick it out here in a manner where I can get my point across here. The the thing with like electrons and smart carbs, stuff like that, I have a very hard time buying into the claims that they make because I have yet to see any hard data on paper. And you can't tell me that because there is no there is no jet per se. There is no needle per se. You can't tell me that that thing is going to atomize fuel to whatever demands that motor is going to have at any given point of throttle opening or engine load. Um, just in a real world, I just don't see it happening. Mil spec, you are exactly right with that. It sounds like a damn quadrojet. You're bang on with that, man. Sorry, cheeseburger. I didn't mean for that to land kind of close to home, but hey, yeah, I know. I bought a bottle of Smart Water one time. I felt dumber after I realized I paid $4 for a bottle of water. Oh, but no, I mean, so we're kind of getting on the we're kind of getting on some of the top side of some of our problem children at the ride factory. I got that Honda in the bag, and I got a couple of project bikes that I've kind of run long on, and a couple of weird issues that were one of those things where we just had to kind of deal with it as it comes. And, it was something that was an intermittent problem. So thankfully I'm kind of halfway getting back on track to where I can get my winter projects done. I've got one panhead chopper I've got to finish out. I've got another panhead I got to do a motor build on, and then I got to finish up the shovel head here, and uh, got a couple other smaller projects going on at the shop. But yeah, it's nice to be able to actually have the ability and the time to be able to do some of that stuff instead of running around putting out brush fires. Well, well, June, remind me what have you got for stock? This is on DRZ 400, isn't it? With the stock Minkoni carb. And Carl, on Tillotson carb, man, they're simple. The thing is, you gotta have your float height right. That's the I've not done very much with those carbs, but they're so damn crude. They're almost oversimplified. So if you got the float height right, and you've actually got the right jets in it, and you've got all the air bleeds opened up where you should have bleed air moving through it, thing hard to run. Okay, so you got a DRZ, you got the stock CV carb on there. Have you looked at doing a swap with a 39 millimeter FCR? You know, kind of like the factory carb that comes out on most of your 450 and 250 class bikes. Hey, dude, absolutely. I mean, to be perfectly honest with you guys, I've got an idea in my head for a video that I'm wanting to do to kind of tag along with the tool roll video we did last week. And I bought some stuff for that video. And unfortunately, Buddy Bezos dropped the ball on me and it's running a little bit late. So that's why we're doing a live stream tonight. But I had a lot of people hit me up on that video, because I had tire fixing stuff in there. And everybody's like, well, what do you do about putting air in the tire? That's the kicker right there. And the little lunchbox compressors, stuff like that. Uh, my personal gripe about them is they're all battery powered. So you got to worry about keeping it charged. Well, what if you didn't? What if you had one you could plug into the bike? Okay, that's the what angle I'm looking at it from. Well, it wasn't exactly intended to be a Harbor Freight commercial, but hey, what can I say? I'm a cheap ass, so that's the route we went. Yeah, June, like I was saying, a lot of guys have been swapping the FCR flat slide 39 mils onto the DRZs. And dude, that carb is so versatile and it's so tunable. It's right there alongside of the HSR Minkuni 42 and 45s like we run on Harley and stuff. But seriously, look into it because I've used a couple of those FCR 39 clone carbs that I've gotten off Amazon, and everything I've done with them, I've had very good luck with them. You can buy them for 80, 75, 80 bucks off of Amazon. Uh, KD Jet Kit in. Oh, they actually ran a damn commercial during that episode. Holy shit! But one lure is actually on that ZR7. It's going to be damn near identical to that video that we did on Cletus. Drew, I know. Everybody's like, oh, it's got a USB. It's the same as my phone. Here's my thing. Everybody's got a trickle charger on their battery of some form or one or the other. At least most everybody does. If you don't, you really should. But they all use a standardized 2-pin SAE style plug. So, yeah, basically, I'm going to show you guys how to build a little Franken pump out of, kind of like what I did with the Harbor Freight air pump. Unfortunately, Harbor Freight doesn't carry that pump anymore, but I found them damn cheap on Amazon. If memory serves right, I think I bought these things. I bought 3 of them, but if memory serves right, I think I paid $4 each for them. So yeah. Hang on, Milspec. I got to roll up just a little bit here where I can catch the first part of your comment there. Getting rid of D-cell pop. Okay, that's easy. The D-cell pop on the biggest majority of all of your metric bikes, it's because of that secondary air injection where it's got those little reed valves in the can cover, where it lets fresh air into the exhaust. What's happening is you're getting oxygen into the exhaust system, and the fuel is actually afterburning in the exhaust pipes. So that's where you get the pop from. That's where all your neighbors start diving behind their couch because they think that there's a turf war going on. Uh, I know everybody and their dog makes block off plates for them, but like especially on Honda, what I find on those, um, all the plumbing, like that secondary air solenoid, the hoses that go to the air box and then go to the reed valves and the valve covers, take all that crap off. Take the reed valves themselves where the hoses connect, and the end of the little nipple where the hose went on there, you can screw an 1/8 inch pipe tap in the end of that thing, and you put an 1/8 inch pipe plug in that nipple, and then reassemble it. That blocks everything off, seals it up. Boom, pop's gone, and it costs about eh, what, $2 for a couple of pipe plugs. June, that FCR carburetor, it's 39 millimeter. Try searching for YZ 450F carb or KX 450F carb, something along those lines. Hang on, actually, let me take a peek real quick. Um, let's see if I can spot one real quick, and I'll just drop you a link here in the comments. Da, 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 da. Yeah, here we go. Here you go, June. Incoming into the comments for you right here, bub. Yeah, Cheese, I agree with you, man. And I mean, the thing is, most of all of us sane people that are Android users, not so much the Apple folks, but Apple has gotten on board with it here the past few years. Everybody's got USB-C these days. And, everybody uses that for their phones. Everybody uses that for the majority of their small electronics that they keep around the house, stuff like that. Um, I mean, USB-C, it's a vast step up from the old USB micros. Remember how tiny those damn things were? Like if I had to charge my phone off one of those things, man, it'd take like 12, 14 hours. It was painful. But like I said, it's a good thing to have, but sorry guys, I'm catching up here. Well, I don't know about the scourge, but it was definitely a pain in the ass, let's say that. I mean, you'll get an exhaust pop out of a Vic every now and then, if the tune's too lean on the thing. But generally tune on a Vic's got to be way off for me to, start seeing a pop out of them that much. But the thing is, and this is one thing I see a lot of too on the Harley crowd. Everybody tries to tune every single bit of pop out of the motorcycle. They think that, oh, it's popping, it's bad. No, it's not. And what they do to kill off all the pop is they throw a hideous amount of fuel through the damn thing. And all you're doing is just building up crap in the motor. That pop is a cosmetic thing, nothing more. It's not going to do anything bad. It's not going to make your kids be born ugly. Just check your exhaust gaskets, check your muffler clamps, because hell, half the time whenever we have a newer injected Harley in the shop with a popping complaint, that's where it's coming from. It's getting air sucked in there to where it can afterburn in the exhaust. But anyway, I'm waiting on Buddy Bezos to show up with my cheap ass Taiwanese. That's not a mispronunciation, Taiwanese, because It could be China, it could be Taiwan. I don't know at this point, but they were cheap enough, so I bought them. Because let's be real here, okay? I went to Harbor Freight looking for this thing initially, and they didn't have it. But yeah, so we're going to Frankenstein a air pump, but you guys know the little itty bitty, cheap ass Molly pouches that they sell on Amazon. I mean, basically, it's big enough to put your phone, your wallet, and maybe a stick of gum in there. The plan is we're going to put this thing together to where we can package the tire pump, a reasonable length extension for both the hose and the power cord that'll plug into a standard trickle charger pigtail, along with our tire fixing gear. All of it in that pouch. That way we can keep it in one nice, neat, handy little holder device there that'll just sit in the bottom of the saddlebag, and it keeps it from all getting fucked up. And if I've got this worked out in my head right, we are going to be able to build this, get my ass back to the house tire repair kit for under $20. So yeah, hopefully that shit will show up because it was supposed to have showed up today, and then they rescheduled the delivery on it for Thursday. So we're going to have to just cross our fingers and see what shakes loose there. Keys, I've seen those screw-in plugs, and I haven't tried them, but I don't hold a whole lot of faith in them neither. That that shit is addictive. I know it appeals to the 5-year-old in all of us, me especially. Yeah, yeah, I'm picking up what you're putting down there, Zolox. Uh, that that power brick that I keep in the back of my tank bag whenever I'm road tripping, it's got two USB-A ports, USB Mini, and a USB-C on it, and I can use all four of them at the same time. Uh, you know, do I have to use all four of them? No, but it's nice to have the option just in case. But well, it's not peak juice box. If it was peak, we'd have to do this. But so yeah, yeah, we're but don't y'all don't laugh at me whenever you see how I do this air pump, okay? I'm gonna tell you right now, it's uglier than homemade soup, but the damn thing has saved my ass more times than I can count. Yeah, I agree with you. You don't realize just how much you need it. Actually, this is the funny thing. My GoPro, uh, all my GoPro stuff, it uses a USB Mini, not micro, the Mini, which is coincidentally the same cord that Power Commander uses for downloading Power Commander maps from your laptop into a Power Commander module. The other day, I couldn't find one. I thought I was damn near up shit creek without a paddle. Flash, I'm going to have to look that up, but that sounds very similar to what I'm doing. Um, Basically, it's the skeletal remains of the pump after you take all the plastic housing and all that stuff off of there. Now, I do make a little wire hook that goes on there around the head of it to where you can hang it up like on a highway bar or on a saddlebag rail or something like that because you got a gear that's spinning around there, and that would be kind of a pain in the ass if you got your finger stuck up in there. But that sounds a hell of a lot like what I'm doing. Tactical juice box. That would be camo. That'd be pretty damn cool, actually. Yeah, but see, here's the thing, June, and Drew. This is what I was getting at earlier, and I had a squirrel moment. I don't want something where it's got the battery built into the damn pump because here's the thing: if it gets wet or if it gets dropped or whatever, what are you going to do if your battery gets damaged? You're up shit creek without a paddle. The thing is, if this is caveman simple, it's bare bones. It's a brushed 12-volt DC motor with a gear on the end of the shaft that's driving a bigger gear that's hooked to a pump. You hook it straight to the battery on the bike. And here's my thinking: if the battery goes out in my tire pump, I'm screwed. If the battery goes out in the bike, I can push start the damn thing. Yeah, Pete. Yeah, I know what you're talking about, dude. The screwed up part is somehow on me and the wife unit both have the same phone. Actually, she just upgraded her phone. I've not done that yet, but we both got the Motorola. No, was it the Moto G stylus? And she's got the new version. Because she's fancy and shit like that. She's never had a problem with it on her previous two phones, but on all of the Moto G phones that I have had for the last, God, 5, 6 years now, about once a year, I wear out the charging port to where a cable won't lock in. And I I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I don't think I'm being inordinately rough with it. I mean, I very rarely ever have it plugged into anything except whenever I've got it plugged into charge, like on the headboard of the bed or, plugged into a charger in the shop. I almost never plug my phone into anything whenever I'm out and about on the bike. I don't know how in the hell I wear the damn things out, but I do. Carl has the juice box plan down pat right now. Okay, I will give you that, brother. David, I like the idea behind that. I really do. Here's the only downside to that, and that I see as a potential hazard. Number one, whenever you're using cylinder pressure to pump up a tire, if you got a big tire, you're going to be sitting there a long damn time. But also, say you've got a newer bike, like okay, take Cletus for example. It's not new; it's '94, but the cylinders are down in the head. Ain't that ain't that easy to get a hold of? So yeah, that's going to be a lot of damn work to get that thing down in there. Now, like on say like a old shovel head or an old Evo, something like that, it's hanging right out to the side there, and there you go. You got oodles and gobs worth of room to where you can get in there and do what you got to do. But you're on a V twin bike, you're running it on one cylinder, and while it's not ideal, yeah, it'll get the job done. But see, the way those pumps work, I'm always leery of how much flammable because there's supposed to be an air brake in there. It's actually not supposed to be pulling air and fuel out of the cylinder. It's using that to drive a small piston that's in that adapter. It's supposed to be compressing atmospheric air, but it always makes you wonder, just how much gas is getting in that air. Now, Zillock, it's not fur balls. I mean, I dig those things out all the time with a pick or something like that. It's just literally the charge socket itself wears out. I don't know. Maybe it's me. Hang on, guys. I got to scroll up and catch up just a little bit here. Road glider. We are big on caveman simple around here. I can assure you that. Pete, you may be on target with that, but the thing is, like I said, I hardly never have my phone plugged into anything whenever I'm out and about on the bike. Hell, I think the last time I had hell, the last time I had my phone on the handlebar on the bike was when we went to Key West like 3 years ago. Flash, yeah, there's plenty of ways where you can connect a 12-volt DC. I mean, hell, if it come down to it, just take your pocket knife, skin a wire back, twist it up, and boop, there you go. But Serenity, the problem with using the CO2 cylinders, like for a pellet gun, the volume in them is so small on like, okay, say like the Victory that you won. If you were trying to air up the rear tire on that thing from flat, it would take. I can't remember who did it. It may have been Project Farm. It may have been one of the motorcycle YouTubers, but it worked out to where it took like 15 or 16 CO2 cylinders to get it up to 30 psi if it was totally flat on, a fairly large volume tire like that. And who's going to carry around that many of the damn CO2 cylinders? They're not. Yes, a mouse can absolutely get up a tailpipe and build him a damn nest anywhere in the bike he wants to. I, funny story here about, oh man, probably 20 years ago. This is when I was running the Napa in Oklahoma. And, I was doing bike work on the side, and I had one of my customers bring me a old Honda 360 Scrambler. Remember the old high pipe scramblers? They had the big boom box muffler on them. And he was wanting to get this thing up and running. He was going to give it to his grandson for, a put around bike. And this thing had been sitting out in his barn for 10, 15 years at least. And I cleaned the carbs on it, cleaned the gas tank. The points were good, timing was good, everything on this thing was where it was supposed to be. And I could not get this damn thing to start for loving or money. Every now and then I'd get a fart and a promise out of it, but it just wouldn't kick off and run. And I was getting kind of aggravated with it. And it was kind of late at night. And I was like, all right, we're going to do this. So I gave it a pretty healthy dose of Start You Bastard, otherwise known as ether, down through the both carbs on the thing. And the battery was getting weak and I was getting pissed off. So I just started jumping on the Kickstarter on this thing. Well, it was wintertime, so I had the garage door down and this thing popped and it ran. And it sounded really, really strange, like it was really choked down and muffled. So I kind of revved it up and it died. Well, I got it to start again. And when it started, I revved it right off the rip and everything. And all of a sudden, it sounded like a damn hailstorm was coming through. And I looked over my shoulder and I see shit flying out the tailpipe, hitting the damn garage door. What it was seed corn. This guy had the thing in his barn, and apparently the mice had been, I knew it had mice in it because they ate the air filters out of this thing. They ate half the seat cover off of it. But apparently they drug a bunch of that seed corn up inside the damn exhaust on it, and I guess they were storing it for a rainy day. But when it come out of that damn muffler, man, it was like buckshot coming out of the damn thing. They're like the 12 and 20 ounce CO2 tanks like you use for paintball and airsoft. Um, what I'm building is going to be a lot smaller footprint than that, and you don't have to worry about getting it refilled anywhere. I mean, I'm not trying to seem all high and mighty on my little brainchild here, but it's worked damn good for me for a lot of years. And um, let's just say that that CO2, if if you get liquid CO2 coming out of one of those bottles, it is damn cold, dude. Because back when we used to play paintball all the time, if you accidentally had the orientation from your anti-siphon tube in the wrong spot on your bottle, and you had the bottle mounted on the gun, you'd pull the trigger 6 or 8 times, and all of a sudden it'd start shooting snowflakes out the barrel along with the paintball. Yeah, Flash, my Beamer had 2 or 3 of the CO2 cartridges in there on the factory toolkit. And the one time I actually tried to use the damn thing, I guess one of them, it hadn't had the top of it pierced or anything, but there wasn't nothing in it, so I was still shit out of luck. Hey, Laggy, what's up? Good to see you. Yeah, yeah, nitrogen would be ideal in a perfect world, but there's the whole matter of having to schlep around a big ass high pressure air cylinder with you. Uh, the thing is, we used nitrogen for airing up the rear tire on the drag bike way back when because it wouldn't change the pressure of the tire whenever we did our burnout. That way, the tire pressure would stay consistent. That way, we could figure out where it needed to be at the hook and launch. But Zelloc, I know exactly what you're talking about. Now, you old gray heads in here, think about it. Okay, remember back in the '80s, you could get into the back of a issue of Popular Mechanics or something like that, or Street Rodder or Cycle World or various different magazines, and you'd see those ads for the full auto BB guns that ran off of a can of automotive AC refrigerant, otherwise known as R12 slash liquid gold nowadays. Um, let's just say that I did more than my fair share of blowing a hole in the ozone layer when I was a kid, because I showed them to dad. And then a couple of weeks later, they showed up in the mail, and we had a hell of a lot of fun with those things. Couldn't hit the broadside of a damn barn with one of them, but you know what? Whenever it's kicking out, a couple of hundred BBs, every time you pull the trigger, who cares? Okay, it's accuracy by volume at that point. But but yeah, man. I mean, there's always a cheaper option. There's always another way. I'm one of these people. I try to find that other way and make it as cheap as possible. Yeah, Flash, they'd frost up a little bit if you were a little happy on the trigger. I'll tell you what I'd like to find again. I think if I'm remembering right, it was a Model 1377 Crossman. It was the long barrel target pistol. They were single shot. They had the cocking knob on the back, but it had the little pump forearm. I'd like to have another one of those things because the one that we had when I was a kid, that thing was damned accurate, and it definitely goes a long way towards teaching and also retaining skills and muscle memory. Because see, I could get by with plinking out here in the backyard at the hacienda all day long with something like that. Well, Spec, I've got a couple of 20-ounce cylinders floating around out here somewhere. Uh, hell, I got one that I cut up at the shop and I used it for making a sexy ass beer cup. But yeah, I know. We played a shitload of paintball back in the day, Laggy. But I had to grow up and be adult and stuff, and then I've always been chunky, but I got fatter and slower. So yeah, all good, Just Mike. I appreciate you coming around, brother. And by the way, I am glad that I could help you out with that shifter on your Victory the other day, man. Glad that worked out for you, Bubba. You and I haven't played paintball since. Actually, I've not played paintball in about probably going on about 10 years now. Because the last time we went and shot was for Squid Boy's. I think it was his 15th birthday party when we were still living in Clarksville. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I tried playing airsoft a couple times and it just didn't hold the appeal for me like paintball did, you know? I mean, I I started playing paintball back when everybody was still using 10 ball tubes and 12 grams and the old Splatmaster pistols, if you remember those things. And Man, I mean, we grew up in the woods. I mean, we played a shit ton of woods ball. Yeah, Flash. So you know the one I'm talking about, man. Uh, the grip angle on them reminded me of like the old Rigger Mark II and like a Luger, things like that. But definitely something really really good for teaching basic skills and just keeping the dust knocked off things for whenever you can't make it out to the range. Uh, Speaking of, I got a new addition to the herd that I bought a couple months ago now. Found it on a crazy ass clearance deal through Palmetto, and I bottled around and I bought me a damn Canic TP9 SF. So I mean, hey, new pistol, 4 mags, $310 shipped to me. That was kind of hard to pass up. So I've always heard everybody bragging about how good the triggers are on them. So one of these days, I'm going to have to get to the range and run some rounds through this thing and limber it up a little bit and see if it stacks up. Dude, you still got an original Spider M2? Wow, man, that was the first semi-auto marker that I ever had. Yeah, I shot the shit out of that first Spider I had. I had that Spider, and then my first E marker was an Icon. It's basically a Spider clone, but it had a ramp board in it to where it was supposed to be capped at 15 ball per second, and if you could get your rhythm going just right, it would run up to like 17 balls per second. The hopper couldn't feed any faster than that, or else it'd start chopping paint. Now, Canic makes real stuff. We're going back and forth between real stuff and paintball right now. Told y'all, random as shit. I miss my autococker that I built. I had an original vert feed autococker. It had titanium 3-way. It had the Bob Long Assassin's bolt and barrel. I mean, big old huge honking slab of a damn paintball marker, but damn, that thing was sexy. Flash. I don't think that'd go over too good, man. For one, I ain't got enough sponsorship for that. Number two, primers are high these days, boys. The prices come down compared to what they were a couple of years ago after the dreaded COVID plague, but still, hand loading ain't as cheap as it used to be. I can tell you that. And I've got a dealer's account with Mid South Shooter Supply, and it still kind of stings whenever I got to buy primers or something like that. See, June, that's the one thing. I always shot CO2. Whenever I was kind of at that point when HPA was getting realistically affordable, that was whenever I kind of had to back away from the table, so to speak. And I never made the jump to shooting HPA or nitro. So I just always kept with CO2. Zelloc, I've got a thesis, and mine's a 5 inch. I bought a bare bones 5 inch government model, and that way I could build the 1911 I wanted to build for me. And one of these days I'll shoot you some pictures of it over on the Discord, man. But it's probably running neck and neck with my Colt for the best feeling trigger of any handgun I've got. Oh, Pete, you got an icon? Uh, Y'all remember the invert minis when they first came out? Man, I don't want to think of how much money a buddy of mine funneled into one of those things. Oh my god. I remember the Spider compacts. I never had one of the compacts, but I remember them. A lot of guys that I shot with liked them. Uh Now, Zelloc, what are you talking about a drop off on that thesis? Yeah, autocockers are definitely high speed, high budget nowadays, man. Flash, you ain't kidding there, dude. That's why this is probably the most that we've talked about the subject, since I started my channel here. But well, let's put it this way. Y'all know my garage is detached from the house here. My neighbors know that if they see my house on fire, please do me a solid, call the fire department. If they see my garage on fire, grab your cat, run. Okay, I see what you're talking about, Zelloc. I mean, honestly, oh man, let's see here. My thesis, my blackout that I built. Uh, I've got several guns that have never seen a round of factory ammunition run through them. Period. Since day one. My thesis, probably 99% of everything that's ran through that pistol is cast and powder coated lead. The only jacketed that I run through it whenever I was doing load development for defensive load for it. Uh, my my Taurus PT92 that I've had forever. Um, God, man, I don't even want to think about how many rounds I've put through that thing. It's well over 100,000 round count now. Actually, I bought a stainless upper assembly from a PT99F to transplant onto my 92 lower because I like the two tone look on it, but also my the barrel in my PT92 is a replacement barrel, and the original barrel it cracked right in front of the locking block at about the 35,000 round mark, and that was totally my fault. I had a hot charge on a reload, and it overpressured, and it cracked the barrel, and thankfully it didn't damage the frame or anything, but that was my oopsie. Uh, but basically, it locked the pistol up, because the locking block, was it had pulled it forward enough where it dropped down and it jammed in the lower channel on the frame. But Taurus warranted it. They sent me a new barrel and all that stuff back with the pistol. And this is what sold me on Taurus. And this was way back when. When I sent that pistol in, this was pre-internet. I wrote them a letter and I'm like, "Hey, this is what happened. I had a hot charge from a reload. I just need a price quote on what it's going to cost to get the pistol inspected and get it fixed." Well, the next thing I'd heard back from Taurus, they had sent the pistol back to my FFL that I was using in Arkansas at the time. And not only did they warranty out the barrel, they checked the pistol out. And there was a note in there that said, "We noticed that the trigger spring and the trigger bar spring were below spec. They went ahead and put all new springs in the pistol, plus they included two brand new factory magazines in the package along with the pistol." And man, that's damn hard to beat. You can't bitch about any of that. So that's why I'm a fanboy of it. I mean, uh, I've got a couple of Tauruses. I've got a couple of Rossies, which is Taurus and Rossi. They're the same company, but for what they are, I mean, they're a hell of a good buy. Well, Zelloc, speaking of reloading, I'll tell you right now, as of right now, it's not as economical as what it used to be because the prices of components, namely primers, and there is the price on powder has gone up significantly here the past couple of years because there's been a lot of federal and a lot of military contract buys from St. Mark's Powder Company, which provides powder for Winchester, Accurate, some of the stuff from Hodgdon. I mean, the only reason I can, load what I load right now as cheaply as I can is because number one, the biggest majority of all my plinking stuff is cast lead and not a jacketed projectile. But number two, I had a big enough stockpile of powder and primer to keep me going for a pretty good long while. Mil spec, I'm hoping you're wrong, but you probably ain't. Yeah, I had a Bob Long Assassin Series bolt. It was one of the radial ported bolts, and I had the Assassin Series barrel on my cocker. And dude, that thing was crazy consistent. As long as the bore was dry, the ball would go where you wanted it to go. Now, mil spec, I don't have a very good opinion of the rip rounds. I mean, that's kind of a bougie Mall Ninja Tactical bullet, if you ask me. Uh, Me personally, what I load for all of my carry stuff and all my personal defense stuff, the Barnes XPD, they're solid copper hollow point. Um, Good stuff, real good stuff, real good weight retention. They are flat out wicked as far as when they expand, and unless you're pushing them at like 10 millimeter velocities or anything higher, it's very rare that they ever fragment. I mean, they retain 90% of their weight or better on average. All right, Zillock, be good, brother. Have a good night, man. I appreciate you coming around to hang out with us. Pretty little star. You ain't wrong there, man. Yeah. But, anyways, so yeah. Sorry, guys, I got to reset my brain for a second there. Damn. Uh, but yeah, I actually started hand loading. my my granddad is actually the one that got me started in hand loading because my shooting habit was getting very expensive for him whenever I'd go stay the weekends with my grandparents, and I actually started out playing whack a mole with one of the original Lee loaders. If y'all know what I'm talking about, what they are is they're a totally mechanical hand loading kit. Now they're very small. They're very portable. The only downside is they're somewhat slow, but you can make some damn good ammo off of those things. And when you're talking about a broke ass junior high kid that's making maybe 2 boxes of 30-30 shells over the weekend, hey, they're perfect for that. And you can make some damn accurate hunting ammo off of them. They actually sold a match grade set as well, and it was very accurate, very consistent. But I was literally, I started out, with a wooden mallet, banging away on stuff on my grandma's kitchen table, and grandma's over here sweating bullets, thinking that me and grandpa are going to blow the damn house up. But it's kind of progressed from there. Um, let's see here. Lee Loadmaster. Well, I had a Dillon Square Deal. I had a Square Deal B press that was my first automated press for handgun stuff, and it worked damn good. Don't get me wrong. It was kind of on the pricey side, to change over calibers, and the the tool heads and the dies and everything, since they're Dillon proprietary, the only way you can get them is to buy them from Dillon Precision. Not to say it's a bad thing because they make an excellent product, but it just wasn't it wasn't cost effective for me. And I know a lot of people poo poo it, but probably the large majority of my hand loading gear and my bullet molds and everything, it's all from Lee Precision. I've got a Loadmaster press. I've got a Challenger. I've got a couple of the little Lee C-frame presses that I use. I used to use them, for oddball stuff. I mean, hell, whenever I first moved down here from Tennessee, I had one of those little Lee C-frame presses, with C clamp that I was hanging off the edge of the countertop in my RV I was living in, to where I could load range ammo, to where I could, go shoot, on the weekends whenever I was down here on a small scale setup. But I've got a older RCBS rock chucker. It's old cast iron thing, and I use that for my precision stuff, and I use that for swags and jacketed bullets on some homemade dies that I've put together for swags and jacketed stuff. But you know, uh, the biggest majority of my stuff's Lee. I tell you what, if you guys that are into it, you've probably heard about the Lee APP press, for processing brass and for sizing cast bullets and stuff. Man, that little thing is a game changing workhorse. I mean, it is a hoss. Um, sizing cast bullets it's too easy, because I just, I throw them into the hopper on my collator, and I've got one of the 4 tube adapters that I robbed off of one of my Loadmaster presses, and I hooked it up on the APP, and I can just shake it and get them all to drop in there and just shoot 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 shoot, just run right through them. Same thing for forming 300 blackout brass. Same thing for doing brass prep on, like, pistol caliber, something that's going to go into the wet tumbler, to wash it out before I size it and everything. And I mean, various different things. I mean, that thing, dollar per dollar, that's the best money I've ever spent on reloading equipment, was that little guy. Yeah, June. 3030 is probably taking more game animals in North America than anything else on the planet. And that's proven fact right there. Um, I mean, hell, whenever I was still living in Arkansas and Oklahoma, the majority of the time, that's what I hunted with, was either 3030 or 44 mag Marlin carbine. Uh, because where we hunted, the longest shot I've ever taken on a deer was at like 70 yards. Because where we hunted, there was so much scrag and underbrush, you wasn't going to get a shot any longer than that. But it always made me giggle. You'd see these guys show up at beer camp with like a 7 millimeter '08 or a 300 Winchester mag or something like that. It's like, come on, man, really? I mean, tell me you're compensating without telling me you're compensating. It's kind of like all the guys that drive around here on the Pavement Princess mud trucks that have got tires that are as big as round as the front door of your house and everything, but the sidewalls are only that tall. But yeah, one of these days we'll figure out something to put out there on Discord, where we can kind of expand on that side of the shop a little bit. Maybe have a little bit more interaction, a little bit more discussion on stuff like that. I'm a little apprehensive about doing it here, for obvious reasons. You know what I mean? But no, my tinfoil hat ain't getting that tight. But I figure, why poke the bear? You know what I mean? Besides, in the grand scheme of things, I'm a damn little fish in a big ass pond, and I don't want to catch pee pee smacks from the man. But anyway, oh shit, yeah, that's what I was planning on talking to you guys about tonight a little bit. Destiny, the Terrorglide. So I pretty much got all of my parts rounded up for this thing, and I just gotta sit down and do it. And I think once we get past Christmas, when some of the crazy dies down, I think that's going to be the time to do it. So first and foremost, I got to do something about the suspension on that bike, because the the front end the front end of that thing rides exceptionally well going down the highway. I mean, it's a sponge. It sucks up everything. But the minute you turn into a driveway, or you hit a speed bump, or if you have to grab a handful of front brake, clonk. I mean, when it bottoms out, there's no doubt about it. You know about it. So suspension upgrades are definitely top of the list right now, because I blundered across this the other day, and I'm gonna be the guinea pig here. You guys are probably familiar with gold valve cartridge emulators that Racetech makes. The little brass, valve stack doohickey that you can that you can drop in on the top of the damper rods, and they are worth the money. They absolutely improve the ride and handling of any motorcycle you put them in on an order of magnitude, because the in the grand scheme of things, a conventional damper rod fork, it's extremely crude. I mean, very crude. The gold valve adds not only adjustability, but it does a lot better job of controlling the flow of damping oil through the damping valve stack in that gold valve. So not only do you get a better highway ride out of it, you get more control over high speed compression damping and more resistance to bottoming out. It's kind of an all in one deal. So I've used them for a lot of years. I've installed a lot of them. I just kind of had a hard time dropping $200 on a set of them. And the funny thing is you hardly ever see those things come up used on eBay. And I found where there's a cheaper option. I blundered into this by accident the other day, and Ted's V Twin actually has their. I'm kind of hesitant to say that it's a copy of a gold valve, but it's a straight up copy of a Racetech gold valve, y'all. I mean, it is. I got these things. I've held them in my hand. Now, hang on. Let me get you a link for these where y'all can check them out, and I'll put it here in the comments. Bear with me just a second, guys. Now, whenever I put these in here, I want you to click on this little bitty link I'm going to drop, because these will work with any 41 millimeter fork. I know here on the description of it, it says 2000 and up models, but any 41 millimeter fork from 82, 83 on up is compatible with these things. And they're a hell of a lot cheaper than $200 a pair. There you go. Have a peek at those things. Now, here's the kicker. They install just like a gold valve. They set up just like a gold valve. They function just like a gold valve. Now, there is a little bit of a drawback because at the price point, there ain't no free lunch on these, okay? Racetech gives you two different weights of load spring, the preload spring for that valve assembly. And if need be, you can change them out. With this one, you get what they give you. But you can buy those preload springs for the valve stack from Racetech, and they're pretty damn cheap too. Now take a look at the suggested retail price on those valves, guys. Um, wouldn't you rather pay $60 versus $200? I know what I did. Um, and you know what? I'm going to be the guinea pig for these things, and I'm going to let you know how they work. But the thing is, I've already got these. I've held them in my hand, and I've taken one of them apart, and I compared it to an actual gold valve from Racetech that I happen to have at the shop at the time. Now, I will be the first one to admit the machining on these things is a little rougher than what the gold valve is. But the thing is, all the areas that are pretty on the gold valve compared to this valve from Ted's, it ain't gonna make a damn bit of difference, because number one, it has nothing to do with how it functions, and number two, you ain't gonna see it anyway because it's inside the damn fork. I would much rather buy a functional part that is functional yet cheaper because it's a little homelier cosmetically, because you ain't gonna see it anyway. I don't care what it looks like because I'm never gonna see the damn thing. But currently, they only offer these things for 41 millimeter forks. They don't offer them for 39 millimeter. However, before I drop these things in the forks on Destiny, I'm going to spend a little bit of time blueprinting these things. And if I can either make an adapter to allow them to sit on the damper rod in a 39 millimeter fork, or a 49 millimeter fork with a spacer collar and achieve the same result, that's going to open up a whole slew of possibilities for these things because that'll let you use them in a Sportster, that'll let you use them in a Dyna, that'll let you use them in a newer bike. It's got the 49 millimeter forks. And I mean, think about it. You got guys, I have guys come into the shop all the time asking me, hey, are these $800 cartridge kits for my forks worth it? And in my personal opinion, the answer there is a hard, fast no, because this is the thing that most people, and this is my biggest argument against the cartridge stuff. Yes, they ride good. Yes, they're adjustable. Yes, they're easy to install. But here's the thing: the actual damper cartridge itself, it may have 4, 5 ounces of oil if you're lucky in there, and you've got that tiny minuscule amount of oil controlling the damping for both compression and rebound. Whereas in the fork, whenever it was stock, you had, you know, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, sometimes more than that in there. The thing is, you still have to add oil to the fork, but it's strictly just to lubricate the slider bushes and allow for free movement of the fork. The actual damping oil is sealed inside the dampener cartridge, which also contains the spring and everything for this whole cartridge that drops down into the fork. And two things: these are not user serviceable. Yes, they can be rebuilt for the most part, but you got to box them up and you got to send them into the manufacturer, either Progressive or Legends or whoever in the hell. But if you ever have an instance where that damper cartridge is leaking and it's losing damping oil, you're never going to know it because it's inside the fork. You're never going to see it. And obviously it's not something that's going to happen, like that. It's something that's going to happen gradually. So realistically, how long do you run these things before you pull them out to either inspect them or ship them off to have them refurbed? And while you're waiting to get them back for however long it's going to take them to turn them around and get them back to you, basically, unless you got a spare fork, you're sitting on a jack, you're stuck. Doing it with the gold valves, you still get the same benefit. You still have the same ability to control and modify how the damping action of the suspension works. But number one, you're into it for a lot less money on the front side. And number two, any shop that does typical normal service on a motorcycle regarding fork seals, stuff like that, they're going to be able to service them if you have a fork seal leak or if you have a bushing that's worn out, whatever the case may be. They're real world serviceable. Let's put it that way. You do it at the house, guys. If you can change fork seals, you can put gold valves in. That's all there is to it. Go on. Typically, the way that I look at that, you got to think of it like this: the oil that is in the fork is doing multiple jobs. Number one, it's lubricating the fork. Number two, that's also the damping medium that the fork is dependent upon to control the compression and the rebound speed of the fork. Now, if you have a larger volume of oil in there, that oil is not going to get broke down as fast. And also, it's going to provide more ample lubrication to the forks versus having, because see, Progressive on the Progressive cartridges, they tell you to put 6 ounces of oil in each fork leg. And that's solely just to lubricate the slider bushes. But even putting 6 ounces in a fork leg, when you drop the cartridge in there, the actual oil level that's inside the fork is still significantly lower than what the factory fork oil height is whenever you have just a stock amount of fork oil in there. So my tiny lizard brain is screaming at me. This is the same as running your motor intentionally low on motor oil. You're going to have accelerated wear. It's going to wear quicker. There's going to be more friction because you don't have as much lubrication. I mean, maybe it's just me, but that's just the way my brain works. Well, hey man, whenever you do that on your fat boy, do yourself a favor. Go ahead and throw a set of springs in there too, because the stock Harley spring is, if you weigh 125 pounds, the stock Harley Softail springs are the correct spring rate. If you're anything bigger than a buck and a quarter, you need to bump up on the hardness of the spring. Flash, you're in the same boat I am, dude. And the thing is, your bike is going to have the same type of anti-dive system that my bike has. And contrary to the popular train of thought, and I'll call myself out here, I used to recommend everybody do away with the air ride and put, stiffer fork springs in, with like a straight rate fork spring and appropriate modifications to the oil viscosity and the oil height, and do away with the anti-dive. And I've kind of rolled this around in my head a little bit. I'm going to keep my anti-dive for the time being until I can prove to myself that I'm not shooting myself in the nuts by taking it off. Because here's the way it works. You've got the volume of air that's in the forks, and that's tied into the volume of air that's sealed in the handlebars or in the crash bar. I don't know which one you've got on your Tour Classic, but the way the system works, that anti-dive valve closes off where that air travels from the fork to the handlebar or the highway bar, whatever it's using for a storage reservoir. Two things happen. That's wired into the brake light switch. So it's just on and off. There's no in between, there's no progressiveness to it, nothing like that. Just whenever you grab the brakes, whenever the brake light comes on, you should hear kind of a faint click coming from the top of the forks. Mine is actually disconnected on Destiny right now. I don't know if that was just something that happened or if that was intentional, but it's unplugged. But what that does, that solenoid that sits on top of that air pipe on the top of the fork caps, when you hit the brake, it divorces the forks from the handlebars. It cuts off the ability of the air to be able to be squeezed out of the fork and into the handlebars. Now, there's two reasons for that. Think back to when we were talking about forks a few weeks ago. The reason we raise oil height in the fork leg is because when that fork compresses, if you have a smaller volume of air up above the fork oil, it's going to compress at a faster rate and it's going to generate pressure faster. So that's why they're doing that. That's how the anti-dive works. Basically, what it does, it keeps the air from getting squeezed out of the fork back into the handlebar or into the highway bar, and it's forcing that air that's within the fork to be compressed. That compression develops pressure. That pressure is what anti-dives because it effectively stiffens the spring rate whenever the front end dives. I'm going to keep that in place right now because we're going to be modifying the oil height, and also we're putting the fork valve in there. So if I can keep the anti-dive function and the functionality of it there, and I'm not compromising the day-to-day ride, just going up and down the road by not having it there, what I'm going to do right off the jump, I'm going to do my forks the way I'm wanting to do them, but I'm going to leave the anti-dive unhooked, but I'm going to have the plug hanging out the side where I can plug it in and kind of compare with and without. And if I don't see a relatively significant difference, then, hey, nice experiment. It didn't cost me nothing to try it. I'll go ahead and I'll pull the air manifolds off and I'll just put plugs in the tops of the fork caps. That's it. I'm done. But if it works the way I'm thinking it will, and we're talking tiny lizard brain here, this is going to be able to kind of bridge that gap between having our cake and eating it too, because we're going to have good small bump compliance and good ride comfort when we're on the highway. But at the same time, we're going to be able to have an extra measure of control whenever we're on the brakes kind of hard and the front end is riding lower in its stroke. June, actually, you need to don't be afraid of spending money on oil in a DRZ because I just had one up at the shop this past week where guy, he ran it low on oil and he pulled too many wheelies on this thing. But what oil was in there had been in there for far too long because DRZs don't have very much oil capacity to them, and it actually starved the exhaust cam for oil so bad that the exhaust cam seized in the head and it broke one of the cam caps. It tried to weld the cam cap to the cam, but the cam chain ripped the thing on over, so it broke the cam cap. I mean, it destroyed the head. This thing was going to have a new head, new top end. Luckily, it didn't wound the bottom end of it, but still, the cams ride in bare machined aluminum journals of the head itself. There's no bearing insert in there. So, um, pick a good oil. Like I would recommend at least a semi-synthetic, if not a full synthetic in this instance. But also, you may even, regardless of what oil you pick to go with, you would also benefit from putting a zinc additive in there, because the zinc is probably, zinc and phosphorus are running neck and neck for being the two most critical anti-wear, anti-gall additives that you can put in motor oil to keep crap like that from happening. But Flash, we're doing a hell of a lot more than just forks on Destiny, okay? Um, you've got an 87. Tell me, be honest, how good do your front brakes work? I mean, can you stop with any kind of authority with one finger? Be honest with me, because we're going to be able to by the time we're done with this. And it's still going to look stock. It's going to look production. Basically, well, hell, I'll go ahead and let the cat out of the bag here, right now. When I'm doing the forks, I've got a set of lowers that came off of think I think the guy said they came off of an 06. But anyway, any of the 2000 to 2008 year model 41 millimeter touring lowers, any of those, the bolt hole spacing on them is the same as the 08 and up touring models that had the Brembo calipers. Now, the thing is, you got to run the 11.8 inch rotors with the Brembos because they're slightly bigger in diameter. But we're putting late model Brembo 4-piston calipers, late model 11.8 inch floating rotors, along with the fork valve and the fork rework and everything. All this is happening at the same time. Now, the thing is, there's a very small amount of machining I've got to do on the rotors to make the 11.8 rotors fit in place of the original 11.5 inch rotors. Number one, on older bikes like ours, I've got to put the little drive notch hole for the speedometer drive on the front wheel on one side, but also the center bore of the rotor. Actually, let me grab one of these real quick and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, this is old scrap rotor that came off of Moonlight here, but somebody boogered this thing up royal, but and it's a shame too, because this thing's brand ass new. It never got used. On the older model bikes that had the Timken tapered wheel bearings, this center bore here in the rotor, it's 1.995 if I remember right. Well, any of the newer bikes that use the sealed wheel bearings, they're 2.220. Yeah, 2.220. So they make, most of your aftermarket rotors come with a little top hat spacer that will drop in as you lay the rotor down on the hub. And what that does is that allows you to run the 2.20 more rotors on the earlier model wheels. Now, I'm using factory Harley rotors on this thing, so I can't put that spacer in there without doing just a little bit of machine work right here to relieve this area to allow that spacer to go in. Grand scheme of things, stupid simple. Now, if I'd used aftermarket rotors, it would have that lip already accounted for because it'd have a slight counterbore machined into the center bore of that rotor. But I found some Dyna Fat Bob floating rotors that look very similar to the original oval hole rotors that came on the Tour Glide. So that's why I went that route. I just got to do just a little bit of machine work on it to where I can make that adapter ring drop in the center of the hub. But so anyway, we're putting Brembos on the front of this thing along with bigger rotors, 4-piston calipers, the whole 9 yards. But the thing is, we're going to make this shit look like it came from the factory that way. So yeah, that's the plan there. And also, the rear end on that thing feels pretty damn good with me on it right now. But I know whenever I put the wife unit on the back and I load a bunch of crap in the saddlebags, it's probably going to feel a little squishy. So we're going to change the oil out in shocks. The factory shocks are actually pretty decent. And the reason why a lot of people poo poo them and they say they ride like crap is the oil will leak out of them because the airlines weren't great. And also, you're pressurizing the oil that's in the shock. There's no bladder that separates the air pressure from the oil that's going into the shock. So you lose some over time. Well, nobody ever thinks to service that stuff. So I'm going to pull the shocks off of it. I'm going to pump all the old 40-year-old shock oil out of it. And the stock shock oil on these things is 5-weight oil. It's pretty damn light. I'm thinking I'm going to refill them with 10-weight. I don't know. I may have to kind of meet it in the middle and put 7.5 in there because it ain't too awful bad right now. But it's if I can get a little bit more rebound damping out of it and a little bit more resistance to bottoming just by playing around with oil weight on something I've already got that works and works very well, hey, why not? Because it's a couple hours of time and what, $15 worth of oil? It ain't much. Well, Flash, basically what I'm looking at doing with this swap on here, I realize I'm not going to get a straight one-to-one comparison because I'm not changing out the master cylinder. The hand controls on the master cylinder, they're going to stay with the old style hand controls. I know the leverage ratio is slightly different on them, but also I know the bore size on them is fairly different. Now, I've talked to a couple of people that have done what I'm doing, and they said that they did not see any need and they didn't see any benefit from changing away from the stock bore master cylinder because the stock bore master cylinder is 11/16 of an inch on a touring model or 17 millimeter if you want to look at it from that standpoint. With the newer touring bikes with the 4-piston Brembos, they use a 15 millimeter bore master cylinder. So it's pretty close. It's not that far off. Now, if it comes down to it and I need to, I've already got this worked out in my head how I can sleeve down the master cylinder bore to where it'll have a 15 millimeter bore, but still be the original style master cylinder and hand controls. Because I've said from day one on that bike, I am not going to do anything to that bike that makes it look like something other than a 1988 model bike. I mean, that bike is too clean. It's too original. It's too much of a damn time capsule for me to throw something on there that sticks out like a dick in a whorehouse. Mel Speck, if you're shoving off, have a good evening, man. I appreciate you hanging out with us, Bubba. All right, Ryder. Have a good evening to you too, man. Yeah, well, yeah. It's 11:30 and some change right here, right now, boys and girls. And I tell you what, it's been a hell of a lot of fun, and I've kind of, had brain vomit tonight. But, I think we touched on more than a few things that we haven't ever really touched on before. So, yeah. And you guys that, hung around to the ass end of all this, where you kind of hear about what I got lined up for Destiny. Um, my idea here is I'm not afraid of investing some time in this bike. I'm not afraid of investing a realistic amount of money in this bike. Now, the thing is, if I wanted to point the money gun at it and pull the trigger, hey, we could throw a damn S&S motor in there. We could throw a crate motor in there. Throw a 6-speed in there. Do whatever. Put Olin's on it. Blah 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 blah. But it would be killing that motorcycle because that thing is far too original and it's far too complete for me to feel good about doing something like that too, because you're you're kind of taking everything that everybody that came before you that put effort and thought into not only building and manufacturing that bike, but also owning and possessing and maintaining that bike. You're kind of pissing on everything and all their efforts that they've done up to that point. So yeah, man, you're doing it a disservice on something like that. Yeah, it just feels wrong to me. So yeah, that's the goal here. We got to keep it as original as possible. We got to keep it as original looking as possible. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm all for making more horsepower. I'm all for making a better ride. I'm all for making better performance. But this is one of those things where we have a fine line that we have to navigate. And there's only so many things that I'm willing to compromise on that. All right, Duggar. I love you, man. We will meet up again here real soon, y'all. Like I said, I've been blathering on here for probably about an hour and a half, too damn long at this point. But you know what? Had a hell of a good time, and I appreciate all you guys coming around to hang out with us. And we will do this again soon, y'all. And yeah. Anyway, y'all have a good one. I love you. I'll catch you on the next trip. Okay. So we're gonna put this thing to bed. I'm gonna go in there and crawl in bed next to the dearly beloved, give her a kiss on top of the head, and she'll probably wake up in her sleep and let me know I'm number one. Love you guys. Matters.